Okay, this is a 2-minute question. We'll start with Mr. McKee. Businesses, wealthy, and just ordinary people who simply believe in individual responsibility and freedom are leaving the state. We've lost over 300,000 of them in the past 10 years. What would you do as governor to stop this exodus? And that's what could you do by yourself? And what could you do with the legislature, especially if it's a hostile legislature?
Listen, the reason why businesses and people leave Connecticut every single day is because we have a tax and regulatory scheme that chases them out. We have a system that overburdens our families, overburdens our small businesses with regulation. That's why we need to get our fiscal house in order. And I'll repeat, I will introduce a budget to the state of Connecticut that actually spends less money in the first year I'm governor than it did the year before. Because unless we actually reduce how much we spend, we won't be able to cut taxes. Simply flat funding the budget will leave us in the next 2 years with a $700 million budget deficit. We need to cut spending. I've introduced a budget to do that. I will continue to do that. I'm the only candidate advocating for the Office of Inspector General that will eliminate all waste, fraud, and abuse in the state of Connecticut. We see it happening every day. And on economic development, I will not give 1 penny to a company to move from one town in Connecticut to another. This governor's given $115 million to the largest hedge fund in the world, to a gentleman who's worth $12.5 billion. That's your money. Does that make sense to anybody? He's given hundreds of millions of dollars just to move jobs from Cheshire to New Haven or Westport to Stamford. And the greatest thing is within 2 weeks he announced that he was paying a company to move from Stamford to Norwalk, and the next week he was paying a company to move from Norwalk to Stamford. This is insanity, and it has to stop. If we cut taxes, eliminate the red tape of bureaucracy, people will want to stay in the state of Connecticut. That's what we need to do. We can do it. We will do it. And Connecticut will once again be the great state that we all knew. Thank you.
Again, I'll repeat, I've been in the race for 10 months, and I've been on radio, the LC show, Make Reach This Area, Jim Bicep show, and I've laid out some of my ideas to keep people in Connecticut. Number one, 2 of my children live in Manhattan, went to school in West Hartford. There's an exodus of young people. Yesterday I moved my daughter from one area of Manhattan to another and rented a U-Haul. So the best business that you can go into today is starting a Weicker or a U-Haul franchise, because that's what's happening in Connecticut. If you go down there and talk to them, they'll tell you just how bad it is. So, one of the ideas is children that go to college. We're looking at the plans, and the details will be on my website soon. And we've announced that this is a great idea and a concept for the legislature to adopt. Look for it this session if they know what's good for them. Where the children that graduate from Connecticut colleges have 4 years. The term can be changed, but 4 years where they get a break on their income tax, or whatever level they're at, while they make a transition from college to work life. Initiatives like this, when my kids already left and we're getting no sales tax or income tax on them, is ridiculous. Second one is for the elderly that are leaving. The inheritance tax has to be abolished. The probate system has to be reformed. We're losing the elderly, we're losing the children. First of all, those are the 2 biggest people that are leaving right now, the group that is leaving us. So those are 2 initiatives. We'll have many more, but without keeping those 2, the young and the old, we're left with a vanishing workforce. And again, check the social media and you'll see day after day people posting their names. I'm leaving. I moved to Tennessee. I moved to Georgia. I moved to South Carolina. And it's everywhere. We know it. Vote a Republican governor and a Republican House and Senate, and immediately the exodus will stop. Thank you.
There is a natural process in jobs and maturity of certain businesses. Some of these jobs we were going to lose anyway. And what we failed to do is create an environment where new jobs can be produced that are higher value-added jobs and can fill in for those jobs that leave. Solving the fiscal problems of the state, I think, will make it much easier to convince businesses to stay here. Having a governor who comes out of the business community, I think, will make it a lot easier to talk to business leaders and get them to stay. A red tape review will be one of the first things I do as governor, to look at all our regulations and all paperwork that are imposed not only on business but individuals, and to eliminate any that aren't warranted. We need to eliminate the business entity tax on small businesses. This is a tax that discourages innovation and job growth, which is created mostly with small businesses. And this governor, by having an anti-business attitude in the government and paying corporate welfare, it's like stepping on the brakes and the accelerator at the same time. It simply is a huge waste of taxpayer dollars, and doesn't really solve the problem. So if you get rid of the corporate welfare by just making the state more business friendly, and that can be done in a number of ways, but I think just having a Republican governor, particularly when it comes out of the business community, understands what the private sector needs and wants to hear about what their government is going to do, would set a very strong signal and would keep jobs from running out of the state. Finally, the tax reform. We simply need to look at our taxes and where those burdens fall, and we need to make sure that our taxes are not driving individuals or businesses out of the state as they are currently. And that can be done once we get in charge on top of the fiscal situation. Thank you.
It's a sad commentary when you have to pay business to stay in a place. That's what we do in Connecticut. You know, for 21 years, I owned and operated my own business prior to me becoming mayor, and 15 years of which I was the mayor who owned the restaurant. Did you ever try dealing with state agencies, trying to get a permit, trying to get an approval? You know the cost associated with that and the time commitment that's required? It's almost shameful. I can recall that we had a big proposal in our downtown, and it required, understand what's happening now with people who are at retirement age, and they'll spend 6 months in a day in another state just because they have to protect their assets. Our young kids that graduate from college can't come back and live here, and they've got to get employment elsewhere. It's a sad commentary. And so there are multiple things that a governor must do, including paring down the day-to-day operation of the state, being innovative with the way you handle services, creating greater efficiencies of scale. You have to do that when you own your own business. You have to do that when you run a city. If you don't, you are no longer in business, and you are no longer the elected official.
You know, as a mayor of a city that has, the Danbury labor market area has the lowest unemployment rate in the state, 2% below the state average, I think you have a little bit of understanding what it means to create a business environment. And let's just be clear, government does not create jobs. Government does not create jobs. The private sector, the entrepreneurial spirit of the state creates jobs, but they need an environment. They need an environment. They need an environment that will tap into that spirit and allow them to foster, to grow. You know, I'm proud to be running with Heather Summers, who started her own business in Groton, served as mayor of Groton. She understands what it means to provide that playing field. Here's what you don't do. You don't throw as much money as you can up against the wall to a hedge fund, as we mentioned earlier. You don't throw money up against the wall to other businesses here that raise their hand and say, I might move 20 minutes down the road. You don't give money to a burrito restaurant over in Mystic because you think that maybe they have a good idea for a business when they promptly go belly up. That's not the way that you encourage economic development. You know how you encourage economic development? You cut taxes. You create a business environment you can proud of. You do what New York State is, which is offering 10 years of no business taxes for anybody that moves into the state of New York. Are you kidding me? There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing that. This governor ought to be embarrassed in terms of his economic development growth and the jobs that he has not created or helped create in this state. So folks, let me just be very clear. As governor of the state, we're going to eliminate the business entity tax for all companies that are in this state. We're going to help them navigate their way through the permitting process that is archaic, arcane, and chaotic, and we can't follow it anyway. You realize that it takes us 2 years to approve a permit that Virginia can approve in 2 weeks? That is absolutely outrageous. So I will tell you, as the next governor, I'll do a complete review of every executive order that this governor has signed. We'll repeal those and rescind those that we can. We'll work closely with the legislature to cut the tax burden to each of our businesses, and we'll provide benefits that are available to all, not the wealthy and not the connected to this government.
U.S. Van Lines just told us that we're one of the few states, one of 5 states, that is actually having more people leave than coming in. Our unemployment, our real unemployment, is real 11% because we've lost the labor force. It has become too expensive to conduct business here. You need a leader that believes in business, that believes that profit is good. It creates a job. And this governor talks out of 2 sides of his mouth. On one hand, he's all for business and friendly. On the other hand, he puts in all kinds of new laws, whether it's paid sick leave or it's new minimum wage increases. He is doing everything that is anti-business, and it shows. It shows. So we have to absolutely turn this around. We have to believe that in not giving away a gift to a company to move from one place to the other, as you've heard, you need to put money in people's pocket because businesses need a customer in the door in order to hire someone. There are many of us that have had small businesses. I know what it's like to have a small business. When you don't take pay for 6 months so your employees can continue to do the work and come in every day. We know what it's like to take out a mortgage on your house and put everything at risk. We should not be creating a war between the job creators and pit them against the job seekers. And this is what we have going on here. We have to make drastic changes. First, we have to have a person that believes in business, is an advocate for business, and put a stop on the spending by one governor, as I said, takes money out of your pocket to give it to his friends, by the way, to the highest bidder for a campaign contribution. And we need to restore trust in government, and that's the only way we're actually going to really make business feel that it's safe to continue to stay here and do business. By the way, also, workers' comp and unemployment is a huge hit to small business. That should be considered, and most of them, their business taxes come out of their own income tax, which is raised.